Final Fantasy VII Remake gave us the belief that while the story we know and love would be the same, it would also be very different. That we get to see the world of Final Fantasy VII in a way that we'd never seen it before. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth delivers on that and much, much more. Now, I've already given my spoiler-free breakdown / review of the game, so please do check that out if you haven't already. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in Rebirth. So today, I'm going to be talking about the ending of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and my general thoughts on the narrative and what happened. I am eventually going to go through each chapter of the game, dedicating a full video to breaking each one of them down over the next few weeks. But for now, let's just talk about what happens at the end of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and where that leaves us going forwards. Don't forget, drop a like on the video, subscribe for future content, and obviously, all of the spoilers. Massive spoilers. Like, if you've not finished the game, run away. Spoilers. But yeah, like and sub, do all the things, but let's get into it. Now, personally, I would say that the ending of the game kicks in as we reach the trials in the Temple of the Ancients. And at this point, we have Cloud at potentially the lowest point that we've ever seen him in the entire compilation of FF7. As the game progresses, Sephiroth has been gradually imprinting himself onto Cloud, in the same way that Cloud has taken some of Zack's personality and mannerisms, as well as parts of past events such as the Nibelheim incident, in order to create Soldier First Class Cloud Strife. It's very much the same process. And as Cloud continues to be corrupted by Sephiroth, we see Cloud acting less and less like the person that he has been, becoming single-minded in his effort to retrieve the black materia. Now this is Sephiroth's will, but it's also the mechanism that he's using to drive Cloud deeper and deeper into despair. This way, he's splitting Cloud from the group and making them doubt him. And this culminates in everybody receiving a trial from the temple. Everyone except Cloud. And I believe that this is because Cloud is currently disconnected from everything because of Sephiroth. There's a barrier between Cloud and the planet, Cloud and the party, everything. But Cloud receives his own trial soon after. And this leads to one of the points that I want to discuss today. But first, those trials that everyone goes through. Like genuinely some of the most impactful and heart-wrenching scenes in the game. Amazing. Barrett's nearly killed me. So did Aerith. Having Barrett's and Aerith's back to back. Just cruel. Anyway, continuing on. We progress deeper into the temple, and Cloud's trial begins. But his trial comes from Sephiroth. Sephiroth continues to work on Cloud's psyche, trying to convince him to embrace hatred, regret, pain, malice, and to burn his world to the ground, just like he did. And as this is going on, Cloud is killing another Shinra trooper in reality, and this leaves the group stood there, aghast, watching on as Cloud does the unthinkable, not for the first time. Next up, we come to the mural room, and in this room we get all of the explanations in a very flashy way, and this is something that we're definitely going to come back and look at because there are some similarities between this scene and the Loveless plate that we have at the Gold Saucer. So I kind of want to sit down and look at these two in comparison, but essentially the Cetra just explain the story of Jenova and the Gi and everything like that from their perspective. As we reach the end of the Temple of the Ancients and we finally reach the room where the black materia is, the Cetra show us the scenes that we saw in the VR suite in Final Fantasy VII Remake. The meteor gonna hit, Midgar in panic, and just as they finish this, Sephiroth appears. And this is where we get Sephiroth's speech about how he's going to reclaim his birthright, and he's finally going to stand where he should be. So, all of the usual stuff that we get from the OG in this bit, it's from this point onwards where things maybe take a bit of a different turn. The scene continues with Cloud maniacally chasing the black materia, eventually getting it and snatching it, and we hear Aerith say that it doesn't matter, it's a fake. Interesting. The temple collapses, and Sephiroth appears. He picks up the previously discarded black materia, and refers to it as the key to the true counterpart hidden between worlds. Now as soon as Aerith hears this, she immediately reacts, which is odd if it's a fake, right? Sephiroth then seems to reach between the worlds using the power of his whispers, the ones that we've seen throughout the game, the black ones with the white orbs, and he completes the black materia. but then he gives it to Cloud so Cloud can give it back to him. And I think there could be a couple of things to this. Firstly, that Sephiroth can't control Cloud until Cloud himself gives himself over completely. And handing the black materia over would be symbolic of this, or at least symbolic of this being something that's in the future. But also maybe there is something mechanic-wise to this, because later on we see Cloud have to give the white materia back to Aerith. So maybe what has happened at the end of Remake has caused the black materia and the white materia to only be handled by Cloud potentially, or maybe Cloud is part of the key, the process in activating these materia. I'm not 100% on this, but there's definitely something to it. Well, I say definitely. It feels like there's something to it. We have more struggle scenes, and eventually Cloud gives the black materia to Sephiroth. And after this, Sephiroth attacks them, Cloud and Aerith fall into the crater left behind after the temple's destruction. And then they both wake up, but when they do, it's in the alternate world, the one where Zack has survived. Now, the alternate world pans out pretty weird throughout the game, but in this scene the weird is cranked up to 7777. It's very weird. We see many shopkeepers, all giving free items away, but only one per person. We hear a lot of talk about how this world is going to be ending soon. We get given a choice of green, purple and black sweets that taste bad. Maybe we need to start over. And then Sephiroth finds us. Or more importantly finds Aerith. A lot more happens in this world, but eventually we end up back at the church. And yes, I know I am glossing over a few things here, but we will circle back around. And everything that's going on here is going to be subject to its own video at some point, so trust me, we're not going to miss things, I'm just kind of hitting the main beats. But yeah, we get to the church. And in the church we get the scene that we saw from the trailers where Aerith gives Cloud the white materia. But it's not clear anymore, it's active, it's a fully charged up white materia. We get some scenes between the two of them, and then she seems to create a portal, which she then pushes Cloud into. As she does, she says a final goodbye to Cloud, something that she never had the chance to do first time round in the OG. But as this happens as well, we see Sephiroth enter the church. Cloud falls into a bright white expanse, and is quickly followed by Sephiroth's whispers. We also see some of the white whispers around, but the black whispers seem to quickly take control. And then this is where we get one of the most important scenes in the game. Sephiroth begins to explain the structure of the planet, the true nature of reality. He explains that when fate and destiny are breached, new worlds are created, which feeds back into the theories just after Remake of a branched reality, where actions create new possibilities, new outcomes, and these are played out. There are many worlds, all unfolding and growing, some of them short-lived, some of them with extremely long lifetimes. But eventually, all fade, returning to the planet's embrace, the reunion of worlds. Sephiroth pushes Cloud and tries to get him to join him, again very similar to the end of Remake, but Cloud resists further, hearing the planet screaming rather than rejoicing like Sephiroth claims. Sephiroth realises that Cloud isn't ready yet, and just says that maybe he needs to give him one more push. Cloud raises his sword, attacks Sephiroth, Sephiroth disperses, but as he does all we hear is, "You have my blessing." Cloud then seems to travel to another world, where he meets with Aerith in the Sleeping Forest, and he proceeds to give her the white materia, receiving the empty clear materia in return. So this is a nice point to briefly stop and ponder. What's going on? What just happened? Here are my initial thoughts. At the end of Remake, Aerith casts a spell on the Whisper Portal before we head through, and then Cloud and Aerith head through first. Either in this moment, or as a result of our actions during the final battles, a new world is created. This new world is created by someone that we've already met in Remake, I believe. In Aerith's resolution scene in Remake, we meet an Aerith with memories closest to the future. And in my mind, this has always been the consciousness of the OG Aerith, reaching back in a similar way to Sephiroth and trying to stop him, as she has done many times before. But the world itself was created in a moment of need, and as the result of the party itself defying destiny, exactly like Sephiroth wanted. It seems to be a world that's made up of multiple other worlds, which explains the variety of different stamps that we see in the scene where Cloud and Aerith wake up. To put it how Sephiroth puts it, a world between worlds. A world where Aerith could hide the true power of not only the white materia, but also the black materia. When Sephiroth recovers the inactive black materia at the Temple of the Ancients, he gains access, or at least knowledge, of where the powered up materia is, and he sends his Whispers to retrieve it. But in doing so, he also finds where Aerith has been hiding all this time, which leads to him appearing in the scene with Cloud and Aerith, where they're kind of walking around doing some shopping. And to me, this explains why Aerith chooses this moment to wake Cloud up, give him the white materia, and send him back. Now that the black materia has been recovered by Sephiroth, Holy is needed. This also then gives Sephiroth an opportunity to show Cloud the reality of the worlds, intercepting him as Aerith sends him hurtling through reality, and giving him his blessing, the black materia. One other thing to discuss is that Aerith is acting a bit weird, almost childlike in some parts of this, and I don't really have too much of an explanation for it. Maybe it ties into Marlene, because Marlene seems to be a very important part of this world, and I think it's to do with that scene in Remake where we see Aerith reach out and touch Marlene and share something with her. Maybe when Aerith creates this world, Marlene is very strong in her thoughts and it affects Aerith when she's in this world. I'm not too sure. There's something weird going on, but I can't quite put my finger on it. It doesn't happen often, it happens like once or twice in very quick moments. But yeah, it's a little bit weird. Moving forward though, after that very basic explanation of what I think could be going on, we see that everything that's just happened has happened while Cloud's been in a bit of a fugue state, a confused state, a dazed state. That state where he's not really conscious. He doesn't seem to be able to comprehend anything that's going on. But he can see certain things, he gets flashes, he gets visions, but he can't make any details out. And eventually, he wakes up, when the party reach the Sleeping Forest, the spot where he and Aerith had been, almost as if Cloud's body and consciousness share the same space again, and it brings him out of his stupor. This could also explain something else from a little earlier when we finally arrive at the Temple of the Ancients. Aerith reaches down to the ground and touches it, and she kind of says, "Finally," as if something happened, and we get a little flare of life stream that emanates from her in that moment. Is this possibly Aerith reconnecting with that future self that we heard of in Remake and that we communicated with in Remake, the one that gave her these memories of the future that were taken from her when the party defied destiny and broke all the things? It's definitely a possibility, because from this point onwards Aerith really steps up a little bit and seems to take charge of things a lot more, and I feel like that could maybe be an explanation, but moving on. We move forwards and we reach the Forgotten Capital. After the Whispers of both colours try to stop Cloud and help Cloud in weird kind of combinations, we get the White Whispers stopping us in one moment, and then the Black Whispers help us get through past the White Whispers. But then the Black Whispers create a wall to stop us, but then we get through it. There's a lot of weirdness going on there, but eventually, Cloud gets through. We eventually reach Aerith, and the Whispers, the black and the white ones, are both streaming towards Cloud in an attempt to stop him from reaching Aerith. But eventually he does, and he pushes the Whispers away. And as he does this, we see a purpley black tendril reach around his blade and begin raising up, in a very similar way to the way that when we lose control of Cloud in the OG, every single thing that we try and do results in Cloud lifting his blade and going to attack Aerith. In this moment, he's resisting as much as he can, but it seems like both sets of Whispers eventually end up surrounding the blade in an attempt to make fate pan out how it does. Cloud, like I say, resists as much as he can, and Aerith's eyes open to the sight of black feathers falling to the ground. And Sephiroth descends from the sky above to attack Aerith, but in this moment Cloud breaks free and attempts to stop him. And as he does so, his blade bursts with radiance. The same radiance that we saw when Aerith opened a portal to push Cloud through after giving him the white materia. Cloud deflects the attack, another burst of world-altering power erupting from the collision of blades, and Aerith is saved. And Aerith is killed. The following scenes and battles seem to traverse multiple worlds or realities. Aerith falls forwards, in one reality bleeding and close to death, and the other she seems to just fall unconscious. Maybe similar to the way Aerith and Cloud are throughout the game in the world between worlds, or the Zack world, or whatever you want to call it. Holy falls into the water, activated. Cloud's consciousness seems to flicker between the realities, seeing him cradling an unconscious Aerith, and then crying and tearfully ranting over a bleeding and dead Aerith. While Sephiroth continues his usual move here, trying to convince Cloud that he's not really feeling this, empty vessels can't feel things, he's a hollow puppet. But Aerith then reaches up and convinces Cloud that all is well, soothing him in this moment. Every time that we see Aerith awake, conscious, the rainbow effect, signifying another world, is present. Whenever we see her without it, she's dead and covered in blood. And then Sephiroth says, "And so it begins, a confluence of worlds and emotions." And it immediately reminded me of this part of Livestream White. The woman discovered that there was a growing number of spirits within the livestream who refused to be absorbed by it. While they were different from the man's spirit, they rejected the livestream due to the same emotion: hatred. Their feelings towards the planet were steeped in hatred, just like that man's. This is the result of his influence reaching the surface, she thought. He continues his usual talk, like I say, of Cloud being a hollow puppet, and then we move into the final fights of the game. First, dealing with Jenova, as expected. One point of note here is that everybody has a full limit gauge in response to the tragedy of Aerith's death, except for Cloud. Upon Jenova's defeat, we see White Whispers, the same rainbow effect of someone reaching between worlds, and everyone's healed to full. Something that also looks reasonably similar to Aerith's healing wind. We see a bright flash of the same rainbow energy, and then we see Zack walking through a white expanse, alone after Sephiroth removed him from the world between worlds just before he entered the church. He eventually finds Cloud, who's surrounded by the same rainbow energy, suggesting that he's transcending worlds in this moment, like Zack's able to see an echo of him, or a reflection of him, or something. Zack has a nice little moment with Cloud, gives him a little pat on the shoulder, and boom, appears next to Cloud in what seems to be the edge of creation from the end of Remake. We see Zack and Cloud face off against Sephiroth, until Sephiroth states how, while worlds can be reunited, they can also be split apart, slashing with his sword, and banishing Zack to yet another world. Rainbow effect is visible, and all Zack can do about this is just shout, "Save her," to Cloud, obviously meaning Aerith. Then, Sephiroth morphs into Bizarro Sephiroth, or Sephiroth Reborn, which was weird, and he fights all parts of the party as he falls through worlds, first fighting Cloud, then the party, and then finally fighting against Zack, in a world that seems to be a version of the church, but one that's on the brink of apocalypse. I believe this might be a safe space that Aerith created for Zack to land in while everything's going on, but the power of Bizarro Sephiroth crosses all of these worlds, it would seem, with all of these fights going on at seemingly the same time, in my opinion. This is why we see Cloud and Zack both doing synergy abilities, and both doing the whole protect your honor, sword, prayer moment thing. We see that going on at the same time. Eventually, we defeat Bizarro, and Sephiroth reverts back to his normal form in the Edge of Creation. He stands in front of Cloud, and he seems to be very happy that he's now got Cloud to himself. He sends some of his Whispers to attack Cloud, but they're immediately met by White Whispers, and that rainbow effect again, showing another crossing of worlds in my opinion. And this time, I believe it is the Aerith with memories closest to the future that we've spoke of many times already, OG Aerith, in my mind. And she's come to help Cloud in this fight against Sephiroth, purifying the space it would seem. Baby Seal made an amazing point when we were on SEAL Team 7 the other night. The VOD's probably uploaded by now, so go and check out his channel and watch that. We spent 4 hours talking about Rebirth. and one thing that Baby Seal suggested was that the water that covers the ground is purifying the area. And it already felt to me like it was being purified, but the water appearing, I didn't notice that. It's just perfect. Aerith has come in and purified this space. But I suppose now we need to discuss what is the Edge of Creation. Because imagery-wise, it compares to the area where we see Cloud fight Sephiroth at the very end of Final Fantasy VII. And this is one of two things. Potentially it's a space within Cloud's mind where he's banishing the final remnants of Sephiroth. Or, and in my opinion more likely, it's a pocket of the lifestream where Sephiroth was able to keep himself complete, to maintain his existence in the lifestream. And when Cloud goes there to defeat him, that's what leads to his dissolution, or partial dissolution. Either way though, I think the answer to whatever this realm is in Remake and Rebirth lies in this final scene of the OG Final Fantasy VII. In this moment, Cloud defeats him and becomes the object of all of Sephiroth's rage, his hatred, his malice, and his regret. Cloud was the one who had twice sent the man into the lifestream. The man knew that if one could hold on to some core of their spirit, then one could remain a separate entity, independent from the planet's system. Cloud. The man decided to make Cloud that core, and he wanted to let Cloud know of that. I'm still thinking of you, and I'll show you the proof of that as well. So, this area where Cloud defeats Sephiroth goes on to hold significant importance to both of them, and the destiny of not only all involved, but the planet itself. I feel like this realm is the embodiment of that relationship, that powerful link between Cloud and Sephiroth. I'm not sure if it's within Cloud. Personally, I think it's probably within the lifestream, but I can't rule the other option out. But either way, in comes Aerith, spreading purifying energy into this realm, and helping Cloud face off against his demon yet again. Sephiroth admits he's underestimated Aerith. I don't think he expected her to be able to infiltrate this space, let alone seemingly purify it. And so the fight begins, Cloud receiving help from Aerith now, instead of Zack. The pair defeat Sephiroth, who seems to abandon this place as he flies away. He seems content with how things have gone, and Aerith points out that he knows it isn't over. The White Whispers begin to circle around the two of them, and suddenly the background grows from the much brighter Edge of Creation, in comparison to how it was previously, to a then completely white background. And I'm not 100% sure what this means. Either the White Whispers take us away from the Edge of Creation to this place, or the purification of this place completes once Sephiroth leaves, and as there's no influence holding it in place anymore, it dissipates back into the lifestream. Now that doesn't mean I don't think we'll see it again. There is clearly still the connection between Cloud and Sephiroth, which we'll get to soon. So I'm reasonably confident that we haven't seen the last of the Edge of Creation. But at the very least, Sephiroth will know that Aerith will have some sort of power there. Either way though, in this scene, Aerith tells Cloud that the others are waiting for them, and she takes his hand while standing back to back. Lifestream energy begins to encircle her, and she seems to disappear while Cloud remains. Now my belief here is one of two things. She's potentially leaving a part of herself with Cloud, in an attempt to protect him. Either that, or because this is the consciousness of this future Aerith, she can't manifest and follow Cloud back, so all she can do is send him back and return to the livestream herself. I'm not 100% on this. Events that are upcoming may suggest the former rather than the latter, and that she's left a piece of herself with Cloud. It could be both. It could be that she's left a piece of herself with Cloud, and she's also gone back to the livestream. I'm not too sure. There's a lot of extra thinking that needs to be done in this, and this video is going to be a big boy, so, strap in. We then see Zack, in the apocalyptic version of the church from earlier that he fought Bizarro Sephiroth in. Meteor is seemingly about to hit, while White Whispers swarm around him. But just as he concedes defeat, a portal opens beneath his feet, very similar to the way that it happens to Cloud earlier, and Zack falls through the portal, seemingly to safety. We then see a shot of Aerith, in the livestream, lay on the ground, being circled by White Whispers. And this immediately cuts and fades out to the party, finding Aerith's body, lay in the same position at the top of the altar. Tifa immediately seems sad, which suggests that this is the Aerith that we saw die, and for additional confirmation, the rainbow effect is not there. Cloud approaches from behind the group, suggesting that while this was all going on, he may have been in another fugue state or semi-conscious state, similar to the one that he was in while travelling to the Sleeping Forest. This would make sense given how much time he spent at the edge of creation. Cloud can see the white whispers circling around Aerith, while the party seemingly can't. And as he gets close enough, we see Cloud's perception change to that of the other world, where he seems to have saved Aerith just in time. She still lay, unconscious, whispers circling, but as Cloud leans over her, she awakens. No blood, no wound, no damage done. But the music during these scenes begins to take an eerie tone, which could suggest a few things. I personally think it's pointing towards the state of Cloud in this moment, perceiving this reality rather than the one that everybody else is seeing. And I suppose this finally brings us to the question, is she alive or not? And I can honestly say, hand on heart, I haven't got a clue. I think yes, and I think no. I think given everything that we've seen established in Remake and Rebirth thus far, destiny and fate can be broken, and nothing is quite what it seems. Aerith and Sephiroth have got their own struggle going on with each other that everyone else just seems to be caught up in this time around, and multiple realities can seemingly exist, and people, or at least consciousnesses, are able to bridge the gaps between these disparate realities. So, is it possible that Aerith does actually live in one of these branched worlds? Yes, but, as we were told by Sephiroth, all of these worlds are doomed to wither eventually. Could she return to this world from that one? Maybe, but so far indications seem to suggest no, or at least not fully. Is it possible instead that she currently exists as a part of Cloud, in an attempt to hold his psyche together long enough for him to be fixed by Tifa in the livestream scenes? Yes, again, very possible. But it's also possible that she's actually dead, and that this is a coping mechanism by a broken Cloud, and is actually more detrimental to his psyche than pretty much anything else could be. Almost certainly, and the music suggests this could very well be the case at various points. Given the nature of the game, it could be all of the above. She is Schrodinger's Aerith at this stage. Moving on though, we come to the party sat by the water's edge, having seemingly skipped the scene of Cloud lowering Aerith into the lake, which is interesting. This is something that I'm very sure that we'll see in the future, as Cloud's psyche devolves further into chaos, and he becomes unable to repress the truth of what happened any further. Plus, Sephiroth's going to show him. We all know Sephiroth's going to show him, so come on. Barrett suggests that we move on, and Cloud agrees, and then immediately suffers from that Genova-esque memory flash that we've seen over and over again. And he sees a flashback of Aerith dying earlier on. But then he shakes his head clear, and he looks to the side, and he sees Aerith sat there. But the lighting in this scene is possibly the most ominous lighting I think that we've seen in the game. Aerith's face at first is shrouded entirely in darkness, and the music takes an even eerier tone than it does earlier on. Aerith says that she'll see them off. Now I've seen people suggesting that this could be Genova masquerading as Aerith, and I do think it's possible, but personally at this point I disagree. I think this is all in Cloud's mind. He's created a false chain of events that he is following to their conclusion. And while Genova's cells will make this easier for Cloud to accomplish, I don't think Genova's the one creating these visions. Personally, I think this is Cloud's mind being confused by the events that have happened. Genova amplifies this confusion, stops him from reconciling the true chain of events, and just kind of pieces things together, which is something that we've seen happen with Cloud before. Because I do believe he did see Aerith be killed, while at the same time he saved her. This perception of the other world is probably going to be something that does more damage than good at this point, because it's going to add to the confusion. He also saw that his friend, who he thought was dead, wasn't necessarily dead, and he fought alongside him against Sephiroth. Then he loses his friend again, and fights Sephiroth alongside Aerith this time. All the while, Sephiroth trying to diminish Cloud and break him. He's been through some shit, so his mind breaking isn't a massive shocker to me. Let's not pretend that Cloud Strife is the most stable of guys, especially at this point. So yeah, I accept something weird is going on here, but I'm not 100% convinced that this is Jenova doing stuff. I personally think that what I'm suggesting here is actually far worse than a simple trick, a mind trick. In this scenario, Cloud is truly broken. We then cut to some scenes with Rufus and Glenn, and while I feel it's important, I think that we can delve deeper into this in a later video. Basically, it seems like Glenn is using a black cloak to appear to Rufus, but it's actually Sephiroth. Or is it? Where's Glenn? Has Sephiroth absorbed him? Is he dead? Is Glenn the first remnant in a similar way to Loz, Yazoo and Kadaj? I don't know, there's something weird going on here. I feel like Chapter 7 of The First Soldier in Ever Crisis is probably going to give us the answers to that, and if you're not up to date with The First Soldier, I've got the first 6 chapters broken down fully on the channel. Keep an eye out for the playlist at the end of the video and catch up. Anyway, Rufus gets tired of his shit and unloads everything that he's got into him. But not before we get some weird Glenn and Sephiroth moments where they're both talking to him at the same time, and it's very weird, but it is something that we will come back to in a future video. We then see a swarm of Sephiroth Whispers in the live stream, attacking 2 of the large weapon-type creatures that we saw earlier on in the game. The Whispers swarm around them, and the weapons begin to circle each other before a burst of radiant energy erupts, and the large orbs in their stomachs begin to emit a bright white energy, very similar to the white materia. This destroys a decent number of the Black Whispers, but many more remain, and the weapons leave. Now I need to revisit certain sections of the game before I fully hypothesize on what's going on here, but it seems at the very basic level to be a continuation of the struggle that we saw earlier with the Tifa scenes in Gongaga. However, it could also be an indicator that Holy is active, the bright white light indicating this. One to revisit for sure. Moving on though, and we come back to Zack. Zack finds himself back in the church, although it is a touch less apocalyptic than the previous one. But which world is Zack in? Is it one that we've already seen? Is it a new world? Or could it possibly be the real world? The flowers that we saw dead earlier in the church are back, as well as the pews that we saw disappear in the earlier scene when Aerith pushed Cloud through with the white materia. So maybe Zack has been truly reborn in this instance. It is possible, but there's nothing concrete here. We don't get much. He just talks about how while worlds can be split apart again, maybe they can find each other again, carrying on the sentiment that Sephiroth put out there about how worlds can rejoin but then split apart. You know what I mean? So Zack's obviously going to be trying to find a way to reconnect. We then cut to Nibelheim, and all of the Black Cloaks are leaving, as well as Whispers swarming through the sky, all seemingly heading in the same direction. North. The very final scene begins, and we see work being carried out on the tiny Bronco, while Cloud looks into the clear materia that he received from Aerith in the Sleeping Forest. Aerith, however, is watching the repairs go on, but continuing from the previous scenes, the only person that can see her is Cloud. There is one partial exception to this, and that's Nanaki. Nanaki feels Aerith's presence when she lays a hand on his shoulder, something that I believe is intentional from Aerith, and something that could prove that this is actually Aerith rather than Jenova or Sephiroth. I believe that this only works due to the fact that Nanaki is not only more in tune with the planet than everybody else, but has also had that moment of connection with Aerith in Remake where she shares everything with him. I think that's potentially the reason why this works. We cut back to Cloud, and he returns the clear materia to his pocket. But then he finds something. And what he finds is the black materia. Sephiroth's blessing. This seemingly overwrites all of the good work that has been done up to this point by Aerith. All of the strength and affirmation that Cloud will have received by standing alongside Aerith and standing alongside Zack in defiance of Sephiroth. All of that seemingly washed away in an instant. His goal now is to head north. He merges the black materia into his blade and starts walking towards the tiny Bronco. But as he does, he remembers Aerith telling him not to look up in the other world from earlier. And as Cloud looks up, he sees a massive rift in the sky. Now this rift could mean many things. But the first thing I thought of was a theory that I had a very long time ago regarding the state of the remake world itself. Now we were referring to them as timelines at this point, and the general belief was that there was the remake timeline and the Zack timeline. The Beagle and the Terrier, alive and dead. Whatever your belief was, whether it was Purgatory, the live stream, an alternate world, whatever you thought it was, they were the two candidates. But there was clearly two realities, regardless of how real one of them may have been. And I discussed the possibility of the remake itself being a branch timeline off from the OG, explaining all of the changes that we've seen, and giving us three possible timelines that the story takes place in. Now, people weren't the happiest about this, multiple timelines, not a fan of that. But now we have an unstated and unknown number of worlds, all varying in disparity and longevity, all existing within the system known as the planet. In the world where Zack lived, in the sky, we saw a giant rift, the harbinger of the end of that world, as it returned to its origin, a reunion of worlds. And now, here we are, at the end of Rebirth, looking up at the sky, and we see something similar. And this could suggest a variety of things, but like I say, my mind immediately goes to that thought of this world being a branch from the OG world, and seemingly, events have progressed enough, either in this world or in the live stream or the planet itself or whatever, for the merging process to begin. And what if that's exactly what Sephiroth wants to happen? The reunion of worlds. Just a thought though, and I'm sure I'll have dozens more about this scene in the future. This is just my initial position on it. There's a lot more thinking and a lot more breaking down to be done. But anyway, Cloud tells the party not to look up, but none of them can see anything, suggesting that these indications of the merging of worlds can only be seen by someone who has traversed the worlds. This explains why Zack and Cloud can both see it in the world where Zack survives, and it explains why only Cloud can now, as the others haven't moved worlds. The versions of the party that moved worlds at the end of Remake died in the tornado. Cloud continues over, and as he goes to board the tiny Bronco, after Barrett's given him a very stern, "Are you good?" conversation and "We need you to have your shit together, friend" conversation, he turns and talks to Aerith. She says that she's going to do everything that she can to stop Meteor, and Cloud says he will stop Sephiroth. Aerith seems uncomfortable and a bit unsure for a moment, but then she asks Cloud to promise, which is in my mind an attempt to make sure that he does this, but one that she isn't particularly convinced will work. Cloud and the party leave, and Aerith watches as they go, saying goodbye as the final line in the game, and no promises to keep players. So what just happened? Now first off, I think Aerith is here. I think that this is possibly the consciousness of the Aerith that died at the hands of Sephiroth, and she's tied here praying for Holy with all of her spiritual energy. Because of this, she can't just follow Cloud and the party around because she needs to be here, and this is why she struggles in the end of the conversation, as she's genuinely worried about Cloud's mental state, rightly, because I don't know if she's perceived this or she knows this, but Cloud has the black materia. Cloud still has that urge for the reunion. But this is also why I don't think this Aerith here is Jenova or Sephiroth, as she would have just gone with Cloud in this moment if that was the case. Now, let me just make sure that I point out, this doesn't mean that I don't think Cloud is going to see illusions caused by Sephiroth and Jenova in Part 3. He definitely is. That is 100% going to happen, because that is going to be one of the triggers that Sephiroth uses to push Cloud over the edge. And so, the party have to leave without her, while her spirit stays and prays for Holy. Now, interestingly, in the final shot where we see the sky, Aerith doesn't see the rift. Now, it could be the angle, or it could be that the shot just isn't from her perspective, it's just a shot and they didn't put it in there. Or it could be that this Aerith never travelled between the worlds, and therefore can't see the signs yet. Because my thought at the moment is that the Aerith that we see travelling between worlds, all of them, are the OG Aerith, the Aerith with memories closest to the future. The big question becomes, is this the only reality now, or is that reality we saw earlier where Aerith lived also in play? Could that be the reality where Zack ended up? Or is Zack in the real world? Or is Zack maybe even in the OG world, if what I'm suggesting about Remake being a branch is true? I've got a lot more thoughts that I could throw out there. As you can tell, I need to organise my thoughts a little bit. But this is going to be a process that takes weeks, months, taking each part of this game in isolation and working things out from there, trying to find the threads that hold all of this together. But for now, this has been my first initial breakdown of the final stages of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's going to be far from the last, trust me. I'm going to be starting a series breaking down the core events from each chapter, starting with the very first chapter in the next week or so, breaking everything down in a similar style to this video. And by the time we come back round to the final 2 chapters, I'll hopefully have a little bit more of a concrete and focused series of thoughts on the events and ramifications of the story. But for now, that's going to be it. This is a big boy video. I've not done one this long for a while. Thank you very much for watching and putting up with me for this long. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the story, what goes on, the ending. What do you think? Let me know what you think. I suppose the big question is, what do you think happened to Aerith? Drop those thoughts in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe for future content because there's a lot of it coming. Share the video, bring new people into the channel. But more importantly than all of that, have a great day.